I don't know.
But do you guys like the way I book, which is, hey, are you free right now? Here's a link, jump on now.
Like, show up, don't show up. Like,
that works very well.
Listen, I love everyone who shows up. So
that's like every reporter. Are you free right now?
All right. Mo money, mo problems. You know who doesn't have mo problems? It is the man that makes the South spicy. It is the food, the nightlife, the brilliance of the man that is the pride of Louisiana. When he's not rocking it in the courtroom and running his own law firm and visiting churches all over the world, he's a staple on Court TV as well as a number of other news outlets and killing it on his own podcast and on social media and on Talk 107.3 with Brian Haldane. He is the incredible Franz Borghardt. Joined as always by a Truth or Dare podcast Hall of Famer, a mere 2 states over, also incredible in the courtroom on social media and running his own law firm. You know him from Court TV, CNN, ATL News 1, Scripps, and a million other places when they need great advice. He is the deep digging, tell it like it is, poorly booked by me, Joshua Schiffer. And rounding out our team and making a triumphant return to the Truth or Dare podcast, she is at the pinnacle of everything pop culture, whilst also brilliantly digging deep in everything true crime. Between the Outlier podcast, Corruption, Primetime Crime Live, and PopCrime.tv, she still finds time to share news and insights all over the media, including Nancy Grace, Court TV, shining a light where few others can. She is the incredible Lauren Conlin. How is everybody doing today?
Not great. No complaints so far.
Yeah, why? Yeah, what is it with you guys that you get three hurricanes in 2 weeks? What is the?
I was just coming up north from kind of middle-y Georgia, south of Atlanta, and the highways northbound are all jammed. The state of Florida is in move right now, because this thing's gonna hammer. Like it's gonna wipe Tampa off the damn map. Like you go down there, Clearwater Beach, Tampa St. Pete, none of it's 10 feet above the water, and there's not a bunch of hills to go hide on top of. I have profound fears for that area, because that hurricane, as of last night, I think they were running out of ways to measure how big it could get.
Well, there's another hurricane happening in New York right now, which is why particularly I'm going to tell you guys why Josh,
did you just segue there?
That was a good one.
Brilliantly, I might add. Josh and Franz, we toyed with the idea about doing a few episodes that were specific on a particular case and all that sort of thing, and then the Puff Daddy thing came up, and I thought I don't want to do it without Lauren, because the best thing about Lauren is at the speed and the accuracy at which she gets some of this news, and I'll give you a perfect example. When because it's so funny with how bad I am at it, because like I found out the mayor of New York like 2 days later, and I'll text Lauren, she'll be like, "Yes, Derek, I know." But when the New York mayor got indicted, arrested, whatever happened with him, Lauren's post about it came out like 10 minutes before Raw's Alerts did, and Raw's Alerts is like to the second, but Lauren has jump on it. So
well, it's my city, and I'm part of a group. I'm part of it's like a, I don't know, a
don't
thread,
share credit, take
texting,
credit.
Whatever. And these are a bunch of cops, and they're like, it happened. So I was like, oh, okay.
So when they talked about wanting to have a Diddy thing, I was like, you have to get Lauren, because even the stuff like when you and I messaged back and forth, like I was saying about Diddy's mom made a thing, you were like, oh my God, it was this, it was that, it was that. It's like your knowledge on some of these cases it blows my mind. So especially with the Diddy thing, I wanted to ask you, how far back does this go? Like, I want to ask Josh and Franz stuff on the legal stuff after, because obviously 90% of the shit that he did more than 5 years ago is going to get washed. But
yes.
Can you think of anything in particular that goes way far back, so you can kind of get a window of how long this crazy activity has been going on?
Yes, one of the lawsuits goes as far back as to 1992, and they actually name, Puffy and Bad Boy Records. And Bad Boy, or I'm sorry, his lawyer actually pushed back and was like, "Gotcha, Bad Boy wasn't even a company. It wasn't even founded in 1992. It wasn't around until 1993. So it goes back decades, multiple decades."
And Derek, you got to understand the statute of limitations, both criminal and civil, that's going to be a moving target for the whole kit and caboodle. There are criminal statute of limitations for major crimes that never expire. Like you go murder someone, man, doesn't matter. 80 years, they can get you. Now, civil, That gets a lot more sticky. In Georgia, most of our civil statute of limitations for injuries and stuff is 2 years, but this is New York. And we've already had the reach back law that allowed all the Epstein cases to get brought about. There's unique stuff, and that's each state gets to make those decisions. So who knows with
Well, this was a look back. This was Kathy Hochul's 1 year survivor look back, which is how, if you remember, speaking of Eric Adams, he also was charged. He has somebody that looked back and recalled a sexual assault that he allegedly did, and same with Andrew Cuomo. And then we have Diddy, who got the brunt of this 1 year survivor's look back.
And in a weird small universe, in a Puff Daddy Notorious B.I.G. video shoot, there is a poster for a young Eric Adams running for office on like a lamppost.
You know, and that's interesting because I followed that, and he was NYPD back then. He wasn't necessarily, you know, obviously I knew him when he was Brooklyn Borough president, and to be perfectly honest, I was campaigning for Curtis Sliwa, who is a huge dipshit in my opinion, but he was the lesser of two evils to me.
Mistakes were made.
I can't stand him. I think he's whatever,
they're all terrible.
He's I went around Brooklyn, I took video, and I said, do you know who Eric Adams is? And most people were like, no idea. I'm like, cool, he's your borough president, dude, and he's running for mayor. Don't vote for him. But that picture that you are referring to, at that time, he was working with Farrakhan on some housing projects as NYPD. And so I meant to look into this further, but there's only so much time in the day. Yeah. But I was like, I got to put this together because Diddy is very close with Farrakhan, and Farrakhan is the minister at all these funerals for hip hop artists. So there's something going on there.
And Farrakhan is a slippery guy who has changed and metamorphized multiple times from being everything from, everybody just loved me some fair to, oh my God, he's unrepentantly prejudiced and bigoted and said some really awful stuff. What's fascinating is going to be the spiderweb diagram of the Diddy universe. Because when he got successful, God bless him, he took all that money and went to all the right parties, got to all the right rooms, spread it around. They will put you on a board of anything if you want to make a big enough donation. And he did that like somebody who knew how the game was played, and he plays that game really well.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I will dig further at some point. I just haven't had the time, but there's something to be uncovered there. Even, I mean, this whole web with Eric Adams and Diddy and the hip hop, they are intertwined. I know that for a fact.
So how much is mere association guilt at this point?
Oh yeah.
Cause here's my problem. And I hate to use Cat Williams as a source of authority, but here's the problem. You go to a party, and maybe the party has different rooms doing different things at these parties. I've never thrown a party like that, but it's Hollywood.
You've been to them. We just don't let you into that room.
Yeah, I don't go in the back room. I don't get the Coke and, whatever. Point is, though, what I struggle with is I could be at a party and know some really repugnant shit is going down in the other room. And am I in the clear because I never went in the back room, but am I complicit because I never spoke up? I never said anything like that. Candidly, for me, that's where I'm just sitting back with popcorn, because it's like, is Beyonce going to come out at some point and be like, whoa.
Jennifer Lopez.
Jennifer Lopez. We were at the party, but I mean, I wasn't in the boom boom room. So that is my question.
Yeah, and see, and like more relevant, I think, is it would be as of late. So that's what, again, with Lauren, when we were going back. Okay, you were at some weird party where Diddy had sex with a 16-year-old in 1997. You're not going to be able to prove it. So half the people are going to say you did, half the people are going to say you didn't. So, Lauren, is there anything that, and from what you know so far, that really sticks out as a bookmark saying, this one was bad, this one was bad, this one was bad, as opposed to it was all bad?
Yeah, I mean, well, just going back to really quickly what Franz said, I completely understand where you're coming from and what you're saying. And I have to say, I'm getting really sick of just, I don't know if it's the memes and it's like, oh, this Diddy said this, Diddy said that. It's kind of like, okay, let's move on from that, because you're right. Unless somebody is screaming, no, stop it, you're hurting. How is Beyonce in the next room supposed to know that she should? Yeah. So I'm with you on that. I think it's more about the participation of the drugging, alleged drugging, and assaults based on that, because there seems to be the common themes of drugs and girls knowing that there is a chance that they could be drugged. And at one point, there was a report, I think from Gene Deal, one of his bodyguards, that said the girls started to catch on and they started not drinking the alcohol or anything, and they just started pouring themselves the mixers, the soda, the juice. He's like, well, all the drugs are in the juice. Diddy and everybody, caught on. They started putting that. So I think that first of all, you heard the Busby law firm the other day. They got over 3,000 inquiries. They had to sift through all of those, and they came out with 120, let's say, cases that have merit. So I'm going to put my trust in them that they believe they have a case. You saw in some of these lawsuits, the women had pictures. They had some of the women had text messages. Christian Combs, Grace O'Marcy had text messages. So the ones that are more recent do, I feel like, have more, I guess, concrete evidence. But one girl, I think it was the model Crystal McKenney, she might have kept a piece of clothing that had his DNA on it. So they've got a case, clearly.
Our favorite polygraphist was telling me recently, shout out to Lisa, our favorite polygraphist was telling me that these big firms hire polygraph examiners to screen the shit out of these claimants.
It screws Busby if he gets up there with 120 and 5 of them are complete flake, made it up, clout chasers. So with 3,000, that 120, I bet there was a team of people that were like, all right, we need a couple receipts. We need some pictures showing that you're not just making this shit up. Like, there's got to be some due diligence to get to that 120, because it's a great way. And if I'm Diddy and I'm on his team, I'm going to plant fake stories and fake stuff to burn them on, to show how this is a shakedown where there are people that are lying to get them up.
See, dude had the 1-800 number in the background. I loved it. I loved it.
For part of this conversation, I wanted Franz, because you were a former prosecutor, to wear the prosecution hat, and Josh to wear the defense hat, because for me, and you guys just brought up a great point, 3,000 people coming ahead saying that this happened is great for the defense, because you can just say, well, it might as well be 10,000. Anybody who walked through this house apparently was molested. Where from the prosecution standpoint, if you take, I think, again, Franz, correct me if I'm wrong, if you take 2 or 3 of these people and for whatever reason that gets out that they weren't, you can just say, well, they're all bullshit.
If I'm a prosecutor, I get to, in New York, I get to cherry pick any of these claimants that are strong. And even if they have nothing to do with the New York allegations, federal law allows me to use what's called other crimes evidence. And I can backdoor, no pun intended, I can backdoor all those cases in. That's right. I mean, Josh said sticky and nobody said anything. I say backdoor and Lauren's like, oh my gosh, I'm clutching my pearl.
It's because I didn't catch it. I didn't get it. I'm not that sick. You had to point the joke out to me. I didn't get his.
So point is,
this is the Tiger Woods conversation all over again.
The prosecution can get in some of these and they can ignore all the shitty cases. That's the best part. They can take 150 and say, you know what? I think 5 will do for us. And these are the 5 strongest ones. And we are going to other crimes evidence in these 5 cases, even if they have nothing to do. Now, there's some procedural hoops that Josh gets to challenge me on, but they're probably coming in. And all of a sudden, if I'm like the prosecutor, I'm just sitting back saying, hey, thanks, plaintiff's attorneys. You're just, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Let's not forget that Harvey Weinstein's conviction was essentially overturned because the prosecution went wild with these claimants that really, they weren't vetted. They had no merit. And my buddy, Arthur Idala, as he knows, I think Harvey is a sick bastard, but I did give them credit for what they were able to do. And it was women from his team that were able to do. I mean, listen, Harvey's not going anywhere, right? He's probably going to kick the bucket before anything substantial would possibly happen. But this is why, because they had people on the stand being like, yeah, then one time he like touched my boob at a party. And then like, you know, and you're like, who vetted these people? What's, you know?
And let's talk about the grand 10,000 foot long arc on all of these stories. Here's some trueness for you. When males are given a sandbox with very few limitations and a lot of financial empowerment, they will, by biology, chase certain things such as procreation and pleasure, because your body's literally programmed to do that from birth. Right or wrong, it doesn't have consent involved in your biological programming. So what we're going to have, what we're seeing now, what we have seen for centuries, we just didn't prosecute kings for prima nocta. There's a certain universe where when men have this power, they will exploit many, many, many women in indefensible ways. And men kind of goes along with it. And at the same time, while most women would find it horrifying, prurient, everything, there's a subsection of women that go, no, that's the way the world works. And if I'm going to be out there on the market, I'm going to have something to say. Dangerous stuff.
Well,
he's alleged to have said, not my words, he's alleged to have said, if I can make a man suck my dick, I can do anything.
Yeah. But you know what? And Lauren, I'm curious if you can look into the psychology of this, because I was discussing this with my niece yesterday, and I thought of the question to ask you.
Oh, that sounds appropriate. Already, I'm just kidding.
Real frightening, real quick.
Diddy was already rich. He's already talented. He's already famous. Good-looking guy. It doesn't seem like you'd have to rape anybody. So that's what I'm wondering. What is the compunction here when?
No, I want Josh to answer. I really want him
to. If you walk into a room with 100 people, with 100 women in it, 96 of them want to have sex with you. Why do you have to drug the other 4? Like this, for me, it doesn't make any sense.
So
Josh, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, please, Lauren, if I may.
Yes, please.
This harkens back to my time in the adult entertainment world, where you listeners, I used to hang around with some guys that owned and ran some of the biggest adult clubs around, and I was just a doofy little kid that was hanging out and happened to be a lawyer. It was like a kid at a candy store. I was literally watching a mob movie get filmed. When you're around that much, freely available, you want to go do what, man, they're all over. You get numb to these rock star adult entertainment, sitting naked just next to you, talking about, that orange juice isn't really good. So you've got that. What they're addicted to is thank you, Greg Paul, the strange. And it is the Arnold Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger was the king of California who could have had 5 million of the most beautiful women in the world begging to accept his love. And he was with the housekeeper. And that's because that's what it needed to be. It's the strange, it's the unobtainable. It's not the physical beauty that they're after as much as the, I can do this, others can't, it's new to me. And that's the mentality. It's conquering, it's narcissism.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I feel like Diddy, he came from nothing. He made a lot of money pretty quickly. He got very successful pretty quickly. And just from reading the lawsuits and kind of trying to figure out what he's all about, he has these vibes that I don't want to say like a serial killer, but the recording, the tapes, he likes to watch his work. He likes to dominate. And like you said, he likes to know that he can do it no matter what. And he likes to show off. And so there's this video clip I've posted so many different times every couple of months of Diddy on the phone with somebody. And he's saying, well, can you just move some things around? Can you just do this? And he's like, okay. Then he hangs up and he starts throwing stuff off his desk, and he slams his fists, and he's like, I'm a savage. Whatever I want, I have to get. Whatever I want, I get. And it just sounds insane. It sounds completely insane. And that he, his psyche is that he wants what he wants, and he will get that no matter what. So if you say no, if there's that 5% chance of him, getting turned down, getting rejected by a woman, he's going to make sure that doesn't happen.
So the hurdle is going to be, if you say no, it means no. Mm-hmm. My question becomes, and I don't know how to ask this. Josh knows where I'm about to go with this.
I think I know as well. And you're not going to offend me, but I know there are female listeners. I'm okay.
It always comes down to this issue. You got to prove it, right? Like, if you've got genetic material on a piece of clothing from Diddy, that doesn't necessarily mean that something wasn't consensual.
I was going to say the same thing. That stuff has to go somewhere.
So that's the problem, right? Is the problem's going to be like, I bet, and I'm not saying I absolutely believe that Diddy did this shit. What I'm getting at is, from a defense posture, fucking prove it.
Yeah.
So there is, in one of the lawsuits, Joy Dickerson Neal, she makes claims of drugging, assaulting, and she also makes claims of revenge porn. And in this instance, her lawsuit says that that one of the singers in Jodeci actually said to her, I saw this. Diddy is, or whatever, Puffy, whatever his name was back then, he's showing people. I've seen it. A bunch of guys in the studio saw it. So I feel like, that right there, they named a witness in the lawsuit. So hopefully they'll have enough people.
So and revenge, the beauty of revenge porn allegations for the accusers is consent at the time of the filming is irrelevant. It's what you do with that video later when the person's not with you, no longer your partner, or telling you, don't share this. So that's a different.
Rights then, and you know that,
right?
Well, these are all different, because you've got, what I'm speaking about also is these civil cases, and right now Diddy is in jail for the federal charges of RICO, which is Combs Enterprises and sex trafficking and transportation to prostitution. Completely different. And do I think that some of the women who filed these civil complaints may be witnesses in, this trial, this case? I think so, but it's not going to be based on, their civil suit. It's going to be based on their experience, what they saw, whatever. So I think that's important to clarify.
So just speaking of the money, one thing I just wanted to clear up quickly. I keep seeing reports. The number seems to be he's worth 600 million. So assuming he has half of that
we know of,
it's way more than that. And you're never going to get a phone.
You're so right, Josh. Way more.
Through Epstein, the intangible assets, you could put 5 extra zeros on it.
But in your experience as lawyers, with this shitstorm that's going on, is that enough? I don't want to say to buy your way out, but do you think, say it's 300 million is enough to grease the wheels enough that you're not going to spend the rest of your life in
jail? So feds don't give a fuck. Mm-hmm. The federal government will slay you whether you're a dragon or you're a cat. No offense to cat, just cuz. And like the beauty is, it's absolutely enough to in my mind, to make a lot of these civil allegations go away and not break it. I think even if it really hurt him financially, there's money out there that he could, but the 15 to whatever he's going to do in the federal, ain't no amount of money going to make that go away. Now they'll fight it. What I believe is you'll see a Trump-like defense where they will fight everything, and that may delay. But ultimately, it is what it is, and the federal government doesn't normally go after kings unless they can slay them. So
feds also have a giant. The case increases in value the more scrutiny they put on, because here's what the Fed does: it makes the allegation, then it's got to follow up with everybody. That's the real action, is the follow up, because they're going to go talk to some people, ask them seemingly benignish questions that aren't going to get answered properly. The moment you mislead a federal agent even this much, they turn on and they go, Oh, man, you see, we knew that you weren't actually at that dinner because you were at this dinner. So now it's obstruction. Now it's 5 years in prison. So now this conversation changes dramatically since you're going to prison unless you give us what we want. So why don't you start with sharing all of your emails, all of your phone, all of your date book. You're going to sit down for a recorded sworn statement about what happened, because then we're going to use everything you just told us, twist a little bit, go talk to everyone else involved. And it's a game of getting everybody slightly telling slightly different stories. So you're all liars. And then everybody's looking at prison. And then fuck Diddy, let's go have a party. And they will literally sit down and be like, who do we want out of this group of 20, 50, 100, 200, 500 people? We're talking about A-level through F-level celebrity.
If YSL's list was 200, Diddy's is going to be over 500.
So remember, Derek, the better question is not whether or not Diddy has the financial bandwidth. All the co-conspirators in the federal indictment do not have the financial bandwidth. And they, probably like Diddy, haven't spent a lot of time in pokey, and no one wants to spend a lot of time in jail. And I suspect the house of cards will crumble and you will get the other celebrities, because those individuals will realize the federal government doesn't want to put me away for 15 years. I'll cooperate against Diddy. And yeah, some of them will be Epstein. Some of them will disappear, but not all of them. And that is going to be Diddy's problem, is that the co-conspirators do not have the financial bandwidth to fight the federal government on a level that he does.
Well, and that was one thing I was going to ask Lauren, because I just wanted to go back before it gets to that point. You were talking about there's been some witness chatter and stuff like that. Are you familiar with any like damning evidence that you've seen so far where, again, hopefully by the time it gets to that point, it'll be like, it's life or it's life. Like,
I mean,
where's the
I guess,
smoking gun?
well, I mean, for the federal case, I don't think there's necessarily a smoking gun except for possibly the Cassie video. And I know that that is the one hard piece of evidence that they're really using to, drive in the fact that he is a monster. So where that's not going to prove that he necessarily trafficked anyone, but that's what they have. And like I said, I think it's going to just come down to who flips on him. And like, I've thought about this, right? I've thought about this trial, and I think he's completely guilty of, I'm sure he's drugged, this is my opinion, that he's drugged women, that he's assaulted them, that he's dragged them across state lines, made them have sex with his, I'm certain of that. I believe that. But, and Josh and Franz, you tell me if I'm wrong, I do feel like and I'm guilty of this too, he's being tried in the media, and I don't think that's necessarily fair for a defendant. And seeing Tony Busby last week, I'm sitting there and I'm like, man, this guy's going up there talking about allegations involving a 9-year-old that have not been proven. I was like, shit, is this responsible? Right. And the thing is, I think Diddy's a piece of shit. I don't care what, he can slip on some baby oil and bump his head tomorrow and die, and I will go on living. I'll pray for his family, but I will be fine. But I'm sitting here and I'm like, if I'm the defendant, I'm kind of like, I'm already done. I'm done here.
The worst part, and I have people that I truly dislike in the world. There's a small number, but if the feds are after you, I feel bad for you, because it is the least fair, honest, decent. They don't care.
Okay.
They can
I see
cheat.
what you're saying.
They can lie. They have so much power. They don't care about the rules. If the Fed wants you, I feel bad for you, because you're automatically being rug pulled by all the rules you were raised with in life, because it ain't fair. Now, is the Fed doing something I kind of believe? Yeah, I'd like state sex traffickers to be prosecuted. I'm good with it. Still don't think the way we do it is fair, because you got to understand, the feds don't ask nice questions. No, they walk up. It is negotiations at the end of a gun, and if you fart wrong, they shoot you. You're just done. So with Diddy, it's not going to be, we're going to work on a diversion where you get a slap on the wrist. No, it's going to be, well, if you get us all this other completely impossible for you to get stuff, then we'll think about reducing a little bit of time after you've served a bunch of time. It's that unfair.
13 years.
Yeah, I did one where we had a substantial cooperation involving inside the prison, gang deaths, murders. The guy got something like 10 to 12 months off of a 30-year sentence. And he put his life on the line by turning in the gangsters that were running his... the way they have you in federal, there's just nothing. Like,
I don't...
Awful.
I have not seen... So the press conference with the civil lawsuits, I don't like it wasn't necessary. Like, I understand why they did it.
Yeah.
They could have accomplished the same thing just filing their civil suit. They
gotta
file their
get-
civil suit, and it's less. And then we're all talking about the civil suit, and none of us are like, "Oh, this is being tried in the media." No, we're talking about the suit. I mean, he was fishing for clients. That's what he was doing.
Oh,
he
is a marketing machine.
Yes.
I ain't hating. I ain't hating on him. I'm just saying, I agree that I was like now, do we have a change of venue? Do we have, I mean, first of all, did he get a fair trial anywhere?
No.
No, I don't think he can. And that's what I'm saying. And listen, I don't care, but I care about the justice system and I care about the Constitution. And so that's where I'm stuck here, where I'm like, can everybody stop?
And there's the spectrum, because other than the fact that Kohberger is a creepy guy and Diddy's famous, they're accused of doing some really horrible things. Can either of them get the fair trial? Is a fair trial real? Is YSL a fair trial? I sure as hell think it's not.
I don't think it is either.
The idea of the underpinnings of our system are threatened when we have cases such as Diddy, because 1 billion people know who he is. 2 billion people. Billion.
When I first saw that he wasn't going to get bail and they said he was a flight risk, I thought, I think this is one guy who's not, because I don't think he can go anywhere in the world.
It's not that. It's he was already doing the Epstein thing. He had already texted like 2 people after he was indicted, one of them being this musician that was called out in a very recent lawsuit. And he's like, yo, he texted her 58 times in a matter of 48 hours saying, make sure you say that you didn't see me do anything, and she did. And so the prosecutor is like, no, this motherfucker can't be out, covering his tracks like Epstein did. Lock him up. So I get that.
So there has been a lot of rumors.
Witnesses. It, like Lauren said, it had nothing to do with the fact that Diddy can fly his own plane.
Yeah.
It's the fact that they can't let Diddy have communications with anybody.
But isn't to some degree, isn't that also a silly thought that by him being in jail, he won't be able to have communications?
Not the communication. If you're involved in that, and again, I've heard a lot of rumors too that all these delays that are happening now, it's done on purpose because there's a lot of there's a lot of other famous people that are trying to get all of their ducks in a row and have
absolutely
and all that.
J-Lo, I think J-Lo's going down.
Any of the people that were closely associated with Diddy and had any kind of a good team around them, they were already ready for this. J-Lo should have people on her team who are like, we already have the memo written for this, because we knew he was an exposure that was gonna pop at some point. So here you go. But yeah, I tell you, the breadth of names is gonna be mind-blowing. The people that are gonna be asked questions like, well, were you at the party? Did you see the naked people? Like, there's parts of just being physically present that I think people are gonna struggle with. The idea that Oprah, who should be president and probably could be if she snapped her fingers, is one of the names that was at the parties where then later on in one of the whatever, really crazy stuff happened. So
do you think Oprah is the one that they're talking about in that?
My favorite name from all the rumors, and ladies and gentlemen, this is a rumor, is that there was a Diddy, Oprah, something, and people got hush hush about, and that to me is intriguing to the level of Martha Stewart, who is my equally crushable, super hot media mogulette.
Wow.
That I know it's Franz's favorite. I'm still working on getting her on for your birthday. Don't worry.
Dude, Can you imagine how wonderful a date with Martha would be?
I know.
It would just be amazing.
I'm working on
She,
it.
like for the first date, she's like, well, I know, Franz, you wanted to take me to dinner, but I decided it'd be a good thing if I just made you a 4-course meal. And of course, I grew my own vegetables for this. And you're just like,
a drop of lemon juice on your dryer sheets will make your laundry smell fresh for days.
My husband and I, we saw her at a restaurant last year, a really small Italian one. It's called Sistina in New York. And of course, I said something to her and I just said, Martha, you look so snatched. And she just goes, thank you. I didn't know what to say. We were on our way out. I was trying to be cool and I wasn't. And then I said snatch to like an 80-year-old. So
that's my problem with New York City restaurants. You see the famous people in the wild, and in New York, they're really pretty good. Like, they don't care. This is their New York life. This is how they do. And then as the out of towner, I always say something incredibly dumb. And it's
you would think that I'd be over it by now, but I'm not. My husband and I saw Benicio del Toro having dinner. This is like 3 weeks ago. And I had a martini. I was feeling pretty good and we were leaving. And he came in a different
I gave him a hotel key in front of my husband. It was fine.
What's that? What's that?
Give him a hotel key
in front of my husband.
No.
Martha,
but literally, my husband, I met him there after work. So he came in a different entrance. I came in this way. Benicio's table is right there. I'm walking by thinking I'm leaving. And I'm like, Benicio, I loved you in Reptile. You're such a good actor. And, I'm giggling and whatever and like an idiot. And I started walking out and my husband's like, Lauren, this way. And then I had to awkwardly walk back by
past him again.
Yeah. And so my husband, I'm like, you couldn't have just fucking met me out front and like not made me look so dumb. Like, why would you do that?
Just so we're clear, this fantasy of Martha date with Franz would also include Franz. I know how much of a Snoop Dogg fan you are. So Snoop Dogg made dessert tonight for us, and he'll hang out with you and smoke cigars on the back patio while you guys just have some time together. Okay. It's just so, like, in my mind.
Is Martha Stewart a weird trad wife? Because that's really weird. She kind of transcends the trad wife thing. She's beyond.
Benicio del Toro's a good one, but when I was younger, I worked at a hotel by the airport. I had to go in.
We're not allowed to tell those stories.
I had to go in and test the pool of water. Robert Duvall walks right next to me and sits on the thing, gets to the water. He's like, "How's it going?" I just said to him, "Holy fuck, you're Robert Duvall." He goes, "Yeah." He said, "That's what's on my driver's license." And I just said, "I gotta go." I was so starstruck because I was standing like 6 inches away from it. I was like, I can't talk. I'm dry. I gotta go.
Well, just really quickly on Diddy and some of these weird rumors. Yes. The one rumor that really gave me nightmares, I want to say, and I want to say I don't believe it, but with everything coming out, I'm kind of like, okay, why would Suge Knight say this? What does he have to gain from this? Did you know what I'm talking about?
I saw Suge pop up. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was on News Nation, and like I said, he's not doing this for money. I don't know why he would lie, I guess, but this just seems so far-fetched. But he said it was a well-known thing, and he also said that Snoop, I'm sorry, Franz, and Jay-Z were well aware of this little tradition, and they did nothing about it. But it was where Diddy would force like new male artists or artists that wanted to sign with him. He would make them shove an egg up their buttholes, and if it cracked, he would say that they haven't put enough work into
it was
I don't know how to say it. They haven't put enough work in, so they need to work harder. I'm putting my fingers in quotes. You guys figure it out. So he did not want that egg to crack after it was shoved up their butt.
And it gets into that stuff where it's that male hazing fraternity.
So
you're my little.
I don't know what to think, you guys. I don't know what to think.
Telling you, I know guys, especially ones went to military school and joined fraternities and did some other common male group bonding things that totally are into that stuff. And where it's like, hey, no, I love my friends. Never needed to penetrate them. Sorry.
I gotta go. Love you guys. Bye,
Franz. See you later. Yeah, that I don't know. I don't believe a lot of what I'm reading
No.
lately. I feel like a lot of it's AI, but this in particular, this is something I've thought about where it sounds gross, but I'm kind of just like, could this be real? It
And
sounds crazy,
so
but could it be
it's
real?
it
So-
sounds great, but here's the thing. I know lots of stories of group building, dynamic stuff. Hey, we're doing something special. This is how we're gonna bond. And did he love doing that? I'm the master producer. I'm putting together the group. I'm smarter and I've already done all that. And I can absolutely see him basically torturing and making it transactional with something
Yeah.
sexual.
So a question for both of you is there a technique here? Like, I want to talk to you about some of the stuff that happened and what the statute of limitations on some of it is, but like the story Lauren just told, I'll bet you there's 100 of them. Are those being intentionally put out there in case a lot of this other stuff won't stick? Because we've talked and stuff about juries before and how, making that first impression on a jury is important and all that sort of thing. Whether they've heard of him or not, you want that first day or 2, 3 days, 4 days of a trial to say, like, this guy is not only a scumbag, possibly a murderer, possibly a rapist, but like, he's just somebody that you don't want around. He's creepy because, again, you're hearing this story about the dildos from his house, the baby oil, and this, that, and the other thing. That has no point. I mean, it means not the case. The guy's a weirdo and he's got 1,000 things to lube, but are these all things that are being mixed into being tried in the media? So automatically, like, whether if this guy comes out innocent of everything, we're all still going to think he's a creepy weirdo.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that those stories would necessarily make it into the trial unless, yeah, I mean, I don't know. You never know. But the baby oil thing, I don't know, Derek, if you're paying attention, but there's speculation that it was drugs. It was GHB, and then Diddy's lawyers came out and said, no, he just gets it bulk at Costco, and then Costco's like, whoa, homie, we don't sell it.
It's all a
So,
3-pack.
and then people just
Well,
forgot.
they
So
would
far.
sell you the 55-gallon drum, but they're not going to sell you 70 bottles. Like when you buy a
Right.
gallon of milk, it's
Right, and
1 gallon. Yeah.
but there is a chance here. I mean, I don't know, and maybe Josh, if they found all drugs right in this raid, I would think that it will be part of the indictment here. But you never know, because there's another case that I'm covering, the Kansas mom's case, which completely different than this, but we're finding out more and more months later, and there's charges being added. There's abuse of a corpse charge that's been added 6 months later. That so I feel like there is a possibility that something more could come out, but right now I'm just not sure.
Yeah, there's absolutely a superseding indictment at some point, just because that's how the Fed does this. They start with the broad shot saying, hey, you did all this, which is based off the raid from his house a year ago, which had some just super easy low-hanging fruit. You can't have guns with serial numbers scratched off. They're going to get you on that every single time. That is one of the dumbest ways to break the law out there, because it's illegal in its existence. Like, you just can't have it.
That just shows he
Oh yeah, well, and the mentality of, you will oftentimes see people when they get involved in a life of crime or are used to crime, they get sloppy and they forget that something that they do all the time just happens to be illegal. And then they get popped on and go, oh, I totally forgot about that little dumb thing. So what you've got here, that for all we know, they didn't test many drugs because they didn't need to. Who knows if they're testing it now? I imagine they would have if there'd been allegations of quantity of GH, but now that more information comes out, that's why they do additional investigation. You can have a totally legal plane that's your private plane and use it all you want. If the Fed doesn't know you also let it out to a guy every Tuesday who flies dope and hookers across the border, they discover that in the investigation, they add that charge. I guarantee some of the drug discussions is, all right, so you said that Diddy drugged all these people. How'd he get the drugs? You were there. Were you part? And then that's how you get the bodyguard or the associate or the person who hasn't seen Diddy in 15 years. Oh, yeah, no. Diddy had this warehouse over and wherever, and I went and saw Steve, and then he gave me this, and I just brought it back. Now, smart criminals segregate each leg in the crime so that each leg and the legs next to it are legal standing by themselves, but only illegal when you put it all together into a conspiracy or RICO. But that's the puzzle the Fed's going to put together by squeezing all these people, including a bunch of celebrities who they not just as threatened with going to prison. We're going to ruin your career just by mentioning you. Talk about a loaded gun. If you're an A-level celebrity who dozens, if not hundreds of people depend on daily, these people are walking institutional businesses. If you're an Ashton Kutcher, you employ lots of people. People are betting huge money, hundreds of millions of dollars on you staying out of trouble, having a clean life, being impeccably whatever. You end up with people poking around just mentioning your name enough times, that impacts your ability to do your job. They'll do anything to keep away, including, hey, my lawyer went down to the Fed and dropped off this confidential statement that implicate that there's all kinds of shit in the background.
So I know Cheryl McCollum would be happy because she always talks about the timeline. So my first question is just a quick one. Is sex with a minor automatically rape in New York?
Oh, that's a good question. I believe so. I thought it was. I think so. I'm not positive, but I believe so.
Again, I'm curious. Okay, with all these stories you're going to come up there's not going to be a lot of proof. I can't imagine from the stuff that happened in the 90s and the 2000s. So
I think he taped a lot of it.
Yeah, but will those tapes ever see the light of day?
And it's alleged that he did.
So
that's where my serial killer mindset goes back to. He wants to watch what he did. So he's keeping it forever.
But assuming something weird happened in 1997 that wasn't murder and not necessarily rape, Josh, like they can bring that to court all they want and say it happened that long ago. It doesn't matter.
He could be sleeping though, Derek. There could be a girl on a bed or a guy on a bed passed out, very obviously, and then it could be showing, and I'm speculating, did he letting men, whoever in?
Yeah.
Hey, go. Take a turn. Hey, why don't you watch? Like, we don't know what we're going to see. I have a feeling it's going to be that bad, though.
Yeah, and there's going to be so much of it. It's not the individual little things. It's death by 1,000 cuts. And it's the process. Because the process of being accused and showing that accusation is false, there's the exposure of your fame and notoriety and ability to earn money. If I put you out on a street corner and film you denying 15 horrible things, but then admitting to 2 or 3 of them, it doesn't matter at that point. Yeah. You're already so filled with arrows, you ain't fighting the rest of the war. You're done. And Diddy, you cripple the big game so that then later on you really finish it off. That's what's going to happen. They're going to get a bunch of people, important or not important, that are all going to have really firm little tidbits that put together are going to paint a picture that uncontrovertibly, Diddy held massive parties where huge amounts of drugs were done. They were brought there. It was the reason to have the party, and really unconventional sexual activities took place with those drugs. How much would you pay not to have that story be there? How easy is it to pin you on the little charge that's still valid and do a year or 2 or 5? What would you do to get away from that? Well, I sure as hell would throw Diddy under the bus. And that's where they're going to get the person that was just maybe there. What about the people that were the suppliers that also had a hookup or are currently on probation or parole and have an obligation to sit down and have conversations and be truthful? There's so many different pathways to crank the machine of prosecution. It's never ending. They're going to keep going after him and not give up.
Assuming all this, all this proof exists, why would he go to trial? Why wouldn't he just throw in the towel? Because if you just
if the offer is life, do you go to trial?
Well, I can't imagine that he'd. I mean, if there is, Lauren is.
But Derek, you have said it yourself throughout this podcast. You're asking about the evidence. We're guessing about the evidence of what they're going to bring in there. What if they have nothing tangible? And what if the jury's like, listen, we think he's a piece of shit, but we can't, you guys are not proving it. You're not.
And that's what I was saying. But I was thinking about the smoking gun. You keep hearing these stories. And again, Josh said it the best, being tried in the media, because I've already made my decision. You guys have already made your decision. There's a 1% chance. Okay, the guy's a horrible human being, but maybe he didn't break that many laws. And the ones that he did were 30 years ago and nobody can prove it.
Exactly.
For a long time,
going to trial.
For a long time in Georgia, it was a big deal. You could have sex with your students if you're a teacher and they were over 16. You just could. Did anybody like? No, people. You really. It's legal. So what they would do would they go arrest these teachers and be like, "Are you having sex with this 17-year-old?" Yes, and they would charge you with some sort of thing, and then you go to trial and go, "This is legal," because in Georgia we enjoy a low age of maturity for making certain decisions. We had to pass a special law where it's only illegal for teachers to have sex with students. Other people still can.
Wow.
Because we had cases where people would literally go bench trial and be like, "Yep, we admit it. We had sex.
Wow.
There's her age. That's legal." It's legal for officers to have sex with you in the back of their patrol cars too. Don't even get me started.
Georgia sounds like a party.
That's almost all state.
But no, Derek, I think it's interesting because like I said, I think he's a piece of trash, but I'm able to separate the fact that I hope that they have enough evidence. I mean, clearly they had enough where a grand jury chose to indict him. So there's something there that they have. I'm just hoping that they walk in and there's like, here are all the tapes. If we have tapes, it's done. He's convicted. That's it. Like,
it's the gun. People don't. You gotta understand. They've got him on the guns. That gives them 5-10 years. Now that they've got 5-10 years without question, you have manipulated, scratched off machine gun. You're looking at time. Now that time is guaranteed, now you got to talk about how you mitigate what you're exposed. Hold on. Do I want to go screw around and maybe get more time? Or do I want to do anything I can to get off the time I've already got and not get new time? And who knows how desperate Diddy is? For all we know, they go up to Diddy and go, "Hey, here's a deal."
And that's kind of what sucks because it's like, yes, that's illegal, but getting him on the guns is motivated by something else where it's kind of just like you roll your eyes where, you know, Eric Adams is like, this whole thing is politically motivated. And I'm like, actually, you're right. It is. But you're still guilty. So
but you're still guilty.
Yeah, you're still guilty. It doesn't matter. So, but like for this, it's kind of like I don't want them to get him on the guns because it's like that right there is I don't feel like it's
too easy.
Fair, but it's not that was just the icing on the cake.
What's fascinating about this whole thing and when you talk about trials, because like we talked about it with Nurmi, with Vinnie Politan, with Coffindaffer and stuff like that, is y'all are way too educated on this stuff. So you guys know exactly what's happening and how things are going to shake down. You don't understand that. Okay, in New York, you might be luckier to get like a relatively intelligent jury, but a lot of those people, I mean, I said, when we were talking about the Karen Reed thing, I said, I would have been the worst juror ever because her body language. And as soon as I heard 10 minutes of that story, I was like, guilty. I don't want to hear anymore. Where I think this is the same case. It's going to depend on the race of the jury. I think it's going to depend as soon as both those stories come out. This is one of those things where, like we said before, he's not one of those guys that nobody knows. You've heard about it. You've heard something about it. And a lot of these people on the jury are going to make up their mind if they haven't already when they step in there in the first couple days.
Yeah,
I mean,
system doesn't work
I
well.
hope not. I hope people are fair jurors. I really hope not. Right? I mean, you really want to hope
they generally are. You know, my experience, and I think I share this with almost all lawyers. The vast majority of jurors really take it super serious because when you're really doing it, when you're past the bullshit of call and count, like when you're starting a trial, it gets really serious really quick. Because you've got people in handcuffs. Like it's hard to be jokey, laughy when one of the people in the conversation is cuffed. And there just is that seriousness. And most people in the general public never sit in a room with someone whose freedom is restrained. And to sit over judgment on someone, almost no one judges people in their daily life in a formal way. So that is one thing our system does do well, is it makes people get really serious for this discrete period of time. But I agree, it's hard. The more notoriety you have for anybody to give you a fair shot, it's easy for people with notoriety to always claim this is unfair system shakedown. It's the built-in, because it happens all the time to good people and to bad people.
See, that being said, you only hear about those ones where people have come out, and some of them come out 5-10 years later. You've seen trials that a lot of them didn't get a second swing at it, where the juror was like, well, I disagreed with it, but it was 11-1 and I got bullied and this, that. I mean, it's one of those things. I've read probably a dozen of them in the last little while. 12 is too many. So
Yeah.
again, do what I said the last one. Josh goes, yeah, the system's broken. Fuck it.
Yes, it's the best system we've got. I've got one right now where it's a friend of mine in Pennsylvania who's about to go to federal trial again. This is the second or third trial where during polling of the jury, so they've already rendered a verdict, read guilty. The 12th juror, when asked, "Is this your true and faithful?" hemmed and hawed, was like, "Well, actually, it's not my." In federal court, it's an automatic mistrial. Literally,
Oh,
just
wow.
because during the polling of the jury, the juror very clearly indicated that what they put down on the paperwork wasn't honest and true. And I feel bad for that juror. I feel bad for all the other people that have to go try the case. But that's the system. Our system has these inherent problems that we never get away from, and it's why do your best is really the clarion call when you're dealing with tough issues. And no way did he get, quote unquote, a fair trial, because he's Diddy. But guess what? He became Diddy. That's part of the caveat emptor of life.
Now, before we get out of here, I'm curious, both your thoughts. How do you think this whole thing turns out in the end?
With Diddy?
Yeah. Do you think he'll ever walk a free man? I'm going to say he does.
I think there's a substantial possibility or likelihood, but it would require profound efforts from Mr. Combs throwing other people under the bus.
Yeah, that's I think, I've thought about this a lot. I thought at first maybe there was a possibility that they would use the fact that he's this public figure, and that maybe protective custody wouldn't be good enough for him at MDC because there's still other inmates around. So I'm thinking, okay, what if they strategically put him in solitary and it makes him go totally crazy that he's like, screw it. I will plead guilty because this is what's on the table, and they'll send me to some country club federal prison and it'll be, better than what I'm going to do now, whatever. I thought about that. I thought about the possibility that he is Epsteined, slips on some baby oil, bumps his head, unalived. And then I've thought about the fact that this is what I think is actually going to happen. It's going to go to trial. And I think that we are going to have to pick our jaws up off the floor when we start hearing some of the people that are involved with Diddy. Or we're complicit. And then I think he's going to jail for a long time.
I got it with Lauren. Yeah, this has trial written all over it because of the people involved in the allegations and the fact that you can't kind of just plead to a little bit of this and try to, and there's no recovery. He kind of needs to run the table or put his tail between his legs and run. And neither of those are palatable.
And it sounds like he's insisting on taking the stand. He wants to tell his side, whatever the hell that is. It's going to be everybody's using me for my money. Everyone wants my money. Da, da, da. We already know that. We know you're going to say that. Like, we get it. But I do feel like a trial is coming, and there was a new judge assigned to the case last Thursday. So there's I think they have another hearing coming up where they're going to try to get him bail again.
I know the judge that he was in front of originally because I've got a PPP fraud case with that. And it was not surprising that he didn't get bond. But everything I know from talking to my New York lawyers, he is still not going to get bond. And
I don't think
it's going to be the influence of witnesses. No one gives a damn about the fact that he's rich and that he can go anywhere. No one cares. They can't let him on a phone or an email or let him have unmonitored communications with people.
Exactly. So I'm with you on that. I don't think he's getting bail. And if a new judge came in and granted him, that would be crazy. They'd be like, what are you doing? This went through two different judges. And now you're like, what's going on? I think that would be, people would start automatically looking into this judge, and then that judge would be dragged. And my God, like it would just be a mess. But
it's just the nature of the allegations, the size and scope of things. There's just things that are not going to be bond appropriate considering the dynamics at hand.
Totally agree.
And it sucks to be him, but man, it ain't me.
No, because you don't commit allegedly or allegedly
I-
commit illegal activities, and you're not
Right.
a sick, twisted sexual deviant, allegedly.
Hey, don't undersell me. I've got
Allegedly.
patient.
Fair.
But that's the thing that I think is going to be really interesting is as the what does the boy with unlimited resources do? Is that so I talked to one of my trial gurus who goes, no, you lean into it. And it's what Epstein should have done. It's what Weinstein should have done, because there's enough primarily men in the world that go, yep, if I had all the power in the world, I'd spend it all chasing tail. Not good or bad, but they're going to go, I understand that.
The system is broken and men are horrible.
There's a lot recently, like going through like just the Garth Brooks lawsuit. I mean, I was telling my husband yesterday, I'm like, there are things in here I did not need to know whether it's the allegations are true, but just to be crude for a second, and I'm sorry to everybody, but like there's a part where Garth Brooks allegedly says to this woman, oh, you need to like not look when I come because I come buckets or something disgusting. And I'm just
there's some really weird stuff in these, and you're like, come on.
I'm like, I did not need to know that that's how you talk and that's what you like. I'm so upset that I read that. I'm just like, man, I can't.
You know what the problem with being as knowledgeable as Josh and as knowledgeable as Lauren is that you get this Garth Brooks thing, and Lauren reads it all the way to the end, and afterwards you're like, "Fuck, I can't unsee that. I'm gonna know that for the rest of my life."
It's good though, because you think that you're some weirdo and you have your own. Don't know, really.
Nope. Garth Brooks says this. Diddy says that. Yeah. Nope.
So when I did adult entertainment, and I gotta go. This is my phone blowing up. So I knew a guy that ran a really successful chain of what we would call a head shop, adult stores, where in Georgia you could have the weed smoking stuff or the sex. You couldn't combine. There's all this litigation. And so I'm out at a dinner with a bunch of other people, and we're talking about his business. And it comes up which of his stores have different, issues and which make more money. And the downtown stores, the ones, that people see and go, oh, that's a dirty store.
Yeah.
Super generic materials get sold and a pretty good income. If you wanted to know which his highest performing stores that carried the most extreme items in his inventory, they were absolutely in the most conservative jurisdictions and parts of town in Metro Atlanta. And in fact, that was one of his arguments making on a zoning case was this county is known to be aggressively conservative. We don't like you.
I believe that.
And that was the store where he made the most money per square foot selling stuff that even I was like, man,
what the hell is that?
That's new. I've never seen it. And I've seen a lot. I've never seen that, because that's where the true flags fly, is in super quiet. That's the nice community. That's where real wild people live.
For more Joshua Schiffer, maybe you need advice, maybe you need a lawyer, or maybe you just found out about Garth Brooks, Tiger Woods, Chuck Knight. You're gonna throw off. Check him out on Twitter at LawyerSchiff, on Instagram at LawyerSchiff, or at www.jdgrouplaw.com, or just reach out to me for another spoonful of Franz Borghardt. Check him out on Twitter at Borghardt Law, on Instagram at Franz Borghardt, and for legal stuff at www.borghardtlawfirm.com. And for more of the great Lauren Conlin, head over to www.popcrime.tv. Follow her on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Lauren Conlin and at Conlin Lauren. Subscribe to her YouTube channel and check out her incredible podcast, The Outlier, wherever you get your podcasts fixed. Guys, Josh, I will see you in Vegas next week, Monday. And Lauren, thank you so much. You guys are absolutely incredible every damn time. This is incredible. I can't believe how fast the hour goes.
Just goes.
It does go fast. Thank you for having me. It's always so, and I always learn a lot from Josh and Franz, and you always ask great questions. So
we love talking with you. Like you're absolutely one of the favorite. Just without
it is. It's always weird because I listen to Lauren whenever she does her stuff, and I see her on the news and stuff. She's so much better at this than I am. So every time you do it, you're like, okay, you just got to get her talking, and it'll be fine. You guys don't need me. I'll just sit here.
That's so nice, you guys. I love being on with you. So thank you for having me.
And we're gonna get up to the city here by the end of the year. And we'll go. Oh yeah. So my girlfriend's actually going there this weekend. Her sister works at Rockefeller Center for an NBC